Hey everybody, welcome back to the Woodruff Cast. Great show today. Joined by my friend and colleague, professional astrologer Jessica Murray. Jessica works out of San Francisco, and you can follow her blog and her Skywatch columns on her website, mothersky.com. Link is below. Also, the charts that we'll be exploring today are also listed below. I'm not bringing them up on the screen because often it's so tiny, and anyway, it's a nuisance. So everything's down below so you can track what we're talking about. This is like a Mr. Toad's wild ride through the world of MAGA, as well as the ongoing controversies and endless drama and chaos that is part and parcel of the United States government today. So that won't be big news to anybody, but it will be exciting to watch and comprehend and follow some of the insights that Jessica brings to these topics through her well-founded wisdom and experience in studying the U.S. Sibley chart, as well as geopolitics in general. So enough yapping. Here she is, Jessica Murray. I love your scarf and overall look
Oh, thank
for
you.
this
Thank you.
cast.
Because you have such good taste. That's a real compliment. I'm not being sarcastic. Have you noticed that sometimes you and I can't tell because we're usually so snarky
Yeah,
when we're being sincere or when we're being sarcastic?
I didn't feel you
Your
were
moon
being.
and scarp thing, I can never tell.
I get in so much trouble for that.
So, yeah, so I'm heavily into, and we don't have to include any more of it than you want, but as you probably know, I'm into what these big dust ups say about the general karma of the country in its post Pluto return morphing phase. So
Well,
I look at everything through that lens.
I think that's then an excellent place to start. Um, go into the specifics that you're referencing from and I take it this is transits against the U.S. Sibley chart.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And what these figures that have arisen, why the mass mind has invented them.
good. And just so the listener watcher knows, the charts are all below. Um, for those, that want to access that. So hit me with your best shot on that.
Well, the Saturn Neptune in Aries thing is lighting up whatever the foundation of this country is in this incredibly ambivalent way, meaning Saturn Neptune. It's like a walking paradox. It makes no sense at all. I mean, there's this yearning to be grounded and structured, and as we know, it's all melting. All attempts at what's really real are elusive, and people are freaking out because they don't have any way to hold that, except, it requires a real sophisticated spiritual kind of Zen worldview
Hmm.
to be able to hold that paradox. And this country's out to lunch on any of that for the most part. But I was talking to you before about how in the San Francisco earthquake, all these expensive houses in this classy part of town, the marina,
Hmm.
they all crumbled because the ground underneath them turned to jello. It just melted like quicksand.
Hmm.
And that image strikes me as what's happening to the country and its foundations. And of course, people are freaking out, but we really need the long view on this, which is what else would you expect to be the next step after a Pluto return, which has knocked the superpower of the world, the hyperpower of the world, off its throne and it doesn't know where it's going. It doesn't know what it is.
Right.
So I think that's the main plot. And then against that backdrop, we've got the Saturn Neptune major subplot, which is, as we know, squaring the US. This is me drawing a 90-degree angle in the air,
Hmm.
squaring the US Cancer cluster,
Right.
which has just had its Jupiter return. So all these issues, about what it means that the US is so Jupitered out as a group entity are all in our faces.
Hmm.
The historic overreaching, you could go on and on for everything from manifest destiny to ethno nationalism, Jupiter, Cancer, patriotism gone nuts, to the size of the portions at the Cheesecake Factory. You know, oh, grotesquely too big, and the obesity and the arrogance. I mean, these are all low-level Cancer, low-level Jupiter. As we
Hmm.
know, it takes a highly conscious person to use these the way it's meant to be used. And the US has historically used them so well. I mean, weren't you, when you were growing up, did you get the message like I did that we were the breadbasket of the world and we were so grandiose and noblesse oblige that we could
Hmm.
feed the hungry? And now look at him cutting US aid, creating millions of starving people internationally.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
So,
I want to back up a little in what your argument is here, or your thesis is here, and focus return, because I thought that metaphor of the San Francisco earthquake with the land mass that was supporting all these wealthy homes going out like jello, this to me speaks to the nadir of the US Sibley chart, right? The Aries and then the Saturn Neptune there.
and there's all bluster in Aries. It's this me first, the America first nonsense that
Mhm.
takes the true warrior courage of Aries and, expresses it in this juvenile, narcissistic way.
So I have a different take on this, not that it is opposed to what you're bringing up. I think it's just subtext. And I've written about this before in my newsletter with the very strange sort of necrophilic uh, worship Neptune of this end phase of the American Empire. The
Right.
nadir being, if going back to like medieval astrology and further back, being this end point, death point
Yeah.
of the chart,
Mm-hmm.
from then which everything that starts to ascend after touching off the nadir really is the first fumes of some new kind of phoenix rising up out of the ashes.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think there's this strange reveling, even though people are all freaked out about, it doesn't even matter if it's Republican or liberal or socialist. I think the country is, as you've often written, in some kind of a psychotic break that it can't manage. And then it conjures something like Trump to really play out that kind of chaos, right?
Right.
But this, I think there's something deep down in people where you allude to like a spiritual orientation that would be required to take a mature view on all of this. I think the actual access to that spiritual view starts with conscious or unconscious acknowledgement that this is the end point. That,
Yes,
and then Saturn, Neptune
exactly. A
bringing that
conscious
into
acknowledgement.
focus.
And I think, I don't know, I don't want to get us off track,
No,
but
just go.
I have been thinking too about the denial of death
Hmm.
that is so rampant in this youth oriented, short-sighted culture. Exemplified, for example, I mean, we all see it around us. People are in total denial, and they don't have the church anymore to tell them. Not that that was any good, but because it robbed them of responsibility for figuring it out for themselves. But they don't even have that anymore, most people in this secular society. And we've elected this president who is clearly decomposing in front of our eyes.
Yep.
But you rarely hear people talk about the fact that he's 83.
80,
Oh,
79, gonna be 80.
I thought he was 83.
I wish he was. It would be closer to death.
Okay.
But
All right. Okay, good.
you
I'm
might have
thinking
been
maybe
doing
that I
us,
was thinking of his next electoral challenge. But the point being that,
Chris,
I
Uranus
mean,
return.
okay. So
There
I
you
think
go.
that fits into the way he personifies the things you were saying. He's a bubbling up of the mass blindness of our culture in his obesity and all the things about him that reflect the things that we're disappointed about the way that the USA is using its natal chart.
And it's a celebration from both sides because the liberals celebrate the decay because it looks like the end of them. And then the right celebrates it as
Right.
he's still going on. It's like a creature from a horror film that just
Both of
keeps
them, as you
rising.
say, see him as kind of eternal and magical.
Yep.
And that's why it's so hard to get uh, for the left to understand what the draw is. Although I've been looking at that a lot, and I sort of am penetrating the psychological complexes behind this cult. You helped me a lot in that because you're familiar. You looked at the psychology of cults more than I have, and I'm kind of getting a bead on that. But um, the Epstein thing has really brought that out. But this idea of that he's lame duck now, if you want to look at it just politically,
Hmm.
nobody talks about that either. So, Bannon talks about crows about a third term, but he doesn't really believe it. In fact, he's probably maneuvering himself for some kind of, if not presidential, at least to be a kingmaker in the next election.
Yeah.
But this idea that they can't accept what you're talking about and these lame efforts, no pun intended, to bring back these 1950s style American imagery, coal miners? I don't think so.
Hmm.
And bring back the hard hats, bring back jobs which the information revolution has left behind. The Rust Belt needs to change to match the times, and he can't accept that because he represents the part of the US mind that can't accept that. So it's all about this denial of the dying.
Yeah, and I want two things I want to mention on that flesh it out a little bit more. I think both of these things, and you see this in the UK because they're also doing this turn, like looking to the past, and it's almost like you make UK great again version of MAGA.
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
these are bereft politicians. They have no story. They don't really know what in the fuck is going
No,
on.
they don't. They
So
don't. They don't
you
have a clue.
pivot to this past, which of
Yeah.
course is
Mm-hmm.
another form to me of like a necrophilic fascination.
That's right.
But
That's
then
right.
you
And
have the tech bros. I don't know if you just saw this. The one Brian, I think his name's Brian Johnson. He's gonna live
mm-hmm.
forever. He's taking his
Yeah, right.
son's blood
Immortality.
and he now wants to sell his tech company and begin a new religion called literally it's called Don't Die. And
Oh,
that's
help
that's
us.
that's going to be the name of the church.
Yeah.
So
It's a
there's Pluto in
complete
Aquarius,
denial. Right.
the death with the tech, that entire
Using
fantasy.
using biotech to defy natural law.
So
And it's so juvenile, it's like an arrested development, which the whole culture is in of whatever age. But the childlike fantasy of that,
mhm.
these people haven't done the work to, we would say as astrologers, they haven't worked on their Jupiter. They haven't tried to encompass what the Neptune teachings.
Or the
They are,
Saturn,
or the Saturn, they
which
haven't
with
grown
the
up.
ending of things, the death of things, and of the physical body, the teeth falling out, the bones
Exactly.
crumbling, the mummification.
So I'll deny it with veneers.
Yeah,
And you have, you know, Trump is so pathetically childlike, how even in his tastes, like he wants to bring back all these childhood memories. You know, childhood candies, obsesses about McDonald's the way little kids do, and
yeah,
Coca-Cola with real sugar like it used to have.
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he ate Cocoa Puffs for breakfast.
The doctors probably have him off that kind of diet now, trying to prolong the death process. Let's let's going back to the Sibley chart. We talked a bit about that Saturn, Neptune, the Aries point, the nadir,
Yeah,
and then it's interesting that in the chart that I put up for us today during this dialogue, the ascendant of the chart is touching off the U.S. midheaven. So I
mm-hmm.
really see this as kind of this is like a pivotal opening to helping the listener find ways to kind of orient to what are the high points, or what are the virtues and ideals, the midheaven of the US, the 1 degree Libra. What do you think we can look to that midheaven to try to get our bearings again about
Wow.
ourself as a nation? Because we are, even though it looks so desecrated now, like shipping people out to El Salvador, the Alcatraz alligator pit in Florida for the immigrants. And it's not a very midheaven in Libra.
No, it's distorted Cancer.
So
And
you're
so
seeing and
Cancer is at the midpoint of those two, and
squaring,
it's,
yes.
well, it's a T square in a way, right? Of the signs are forming this right angle, and all of the identification of the mass mind in the US is invested in that Cancer. So it better get it right.
Hmm.
But Cancer inherently clashes, you know, the early degree Cancer sun cluster of Jupiter, Venus clashes with the midheaven of justice, and it distorts that too, in the sense of being a policeman of the world. Like, who
Yeah.
gave you the badge? But that thing has been in the US consciousness identity forever. And so even Libra in its highest idealism can be distorted that way.
Hmm.
And imagine it's the world judge, take over the world court. It knows better than the UN. But really, I think the key is that we're supposed to be looking at right now, because the Jupiter return is like putting a magnifying glass on it, is how the Cancer clashes with both the Saturn Neptune transit you were talking about, taking up that challenge, and the Libra at the midheaven. And people are settling with that. And, you know, of course, Trump's chart, his Mercury is right there with that
Yeah.
synastry between him and the USA. So he becomes the screen that all this mass Cancer obsession is projected on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And low level Cancer is the defensiveness, the blaming, that my family's in here with behind the white picket fence, and all strangers and foreigners are dangerous, and we're going to expel them and exclude them
Yeah.
and make them wrong, make the other side wrong. It's all based on insecurity, of course. Low level Cancer, not the beautiful side of it,
Hmm.
but protecting me. This is even in the tariffs, right? I'm going to withdraw our country like a turtle withdrawing into its shell,
The crab
and the
going into it.
golden
Yeah.
dome nonsense.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Protecting herself behind a golden dome. Of course, it couldn't be an iron dome like Israel. It had to be gilded because it's Trump.
Hmm.
and the walls of separation that exist. Literally, there's the walls that he wanted to build and never did, but there's also the figurative walls, the financial walls between the uber rich and everybody else
Right.
have just gone nuts. And I think this is low level cancer. I see walls of separation as misconstruing that national mandate.
Yeah, this is the meat that I think the nationalism and fomenting that is the meat he throws out to kind of deflect. Because if you look at, say, the big beautiful bill that passed, how the lower classes are just fucked over. It's so outrageous. The mind just reels that these, and of course, it's all set up to kick in after the midterms.
Right.
See, so this
Yeah.
is some expert, stagecraft, political,
Well,
judicial stagecraft.
that article you sent me, I think it was Cory Doctorow, who
Hmm.
said, the ultra rich, they don't care if the public is furious about the bill. Cory Doctorow, I think.
Yeah.
They know they'll lose in the short term, the midterms, but in the longer term, they've locked in their tax cuts, and that's all they care about. So this is an important point about Trump, that this is the opposite of populism. He's siding with the billionaires, just like old school Republicans always did. And some of his base that are going to feel it, like you say, later, and aren't getting it. It hasn't adjusted yet, but they're going to feel the pinch when their Medicaid goes away.
Well,
They're
you and I'll feel it because I just read an article the other day that the way the funds will be redistributed with this bill, it will eat away at the Social Security pool.
oh
So
yeah,
we're looking at incremental percentage decreases for the
anything that
elderly.
could help people. And
Right.
this is all Russell Voigt. I mean, he's the real evil man behind the curtain. But I just want to make the point that this is part of the disillusion of Trumpophilia, because he was elected as this outsider and he would trash other neocon Republicans, the old school type, as being rhinos. But his policies reflect their exact priorities: feed the rich, screw the poor. So there's been a real shift here lately.
Yeah, I was just going to say you pulled that right out of my brain pan because this, of course, is the big red alert throbbing du jour element or scandal that is going on. And then it's literally like every hour I read an update about it. And again, the mind reels with this, the irony of a convicted, rapist is dealing with Galan and making deals to basically pardon her with the promise that there will be no revelations forthcoming.
Well, and that she'll exonerate Trump, hopefully, they hope, and then that'll put this to bed.
Will
But I
it
think,
though? I wonder though. Will it
I don't
though?
know. It may not, but something major has happened if you look at this mythically, as the myth. I mean, the Epstein case fit the narrative to a T of rich people getting away with horrible things, which came from a kind of malaise that was real in the public and was going to have to bubble up in some form, if not revolution, then something else, right? There's this whole context to how the Epstein case came up from this festering stew of the QAnon mindset that had been building for years,
Yep.
because the country was a mess already. It had two financial crisis and two horrible failed wars. I mean, not even wars they could be proud of. And, the MAGA would say the deep state was the problem, because they have this simplistic mind. Again, that's so childish, that there would be one singular problem. and they'd pump all their hopes and fears into this little black and white issue that there's going to be a storm. You know, that term is analogous to the rapture that evangelicals believe in, that
Right.
one day
Great point.
all the rich people are going to be punished. But the mindset, this idea that in one fell swoop, the elites would be punished. And now, oh my God, they're scratching their heads thinking, is he one of the elites? I mean, we always knew that he was. It was hard not to see that. But is he in the cabal? Some of the MAGA people are thinking, because the Epstein case was the one thing that they were holding out to be their holy grail. And they've got these blue balls that he didn't deliver.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's a betrayal that you and I can't really understand, but to them, because they had built it up into this myth, it was the one singular thing, like the second coming. It either happens or it doesn't. It's black and white. So it's very confused. I think they've lost their one uncompromisable issue. MAGA has,
Hmm.
by him not being forthcoming. And they, I think you're right. They still want to hold the fantasy of him as a warrior against elite self traffickers, but it's becoming very hard for them to hold on to.
Yeah, I think their mind is befuddled because, like so many exposés related to Trump, they look the other way. I mean, if you just look at the litany of his different, court cases and crimes and bankruptcies and alleged rapes, and yet there's something about this one that they can't quite
Yeah.
untangle. Because see, the real coup de grace from this was to be, Hillary Clinton locked up, the major dim, pedophiles that were involved with Epstein, all of that.
A lot of
And
them were Jewish, so that
and
fed their anti Semitism.
right. So it's a big muddle, and again, to me, it's another it's another iteration of the Saturn Neptune conjunction that
Totally
is
is.
squaring off,
Yeah.
the Cancerian
Which Trump
part.
personifies.
Yes, and
Exactly.
like you're saying, that Saturn of his in Cancer sitting right on the Mercury. And then also, of course, his sun in Gemini, conjunct Uranus, sitting on the US's Mars in Gemini. So it's
It's locked
the
in.
constant churning of this crazy town chaos.
I
But
think a psychologist. Oh, go ahead.
well, I do think of course, Saturn's retrograding back into Pisces, but when it gets back on track into Aries, I mean, the Saturn transits tend to be like the adult entering the room and
Right.
saying, okay, now this is a reality check. Now
Right.
there's accountability. Now there's karma, to use that term. So I, I don't know. I don't know if that means waiting till Saturn's, back into Aries, making those exact squares.
Saturn's coming. It's always somewhere and it's always on the move. And they've avoided it so far with this arrested development thing,
Hmm.
which I think a psychologist would say that, MAGA has so far gotten past his obvious moral failings and degeneracy by conjuring up this myth of titanic evil that he would vanquish. And if they lose that myth, then they'd have to admit they were being duped. And talk about cognitive dissonance. I mean, that's a real psychotic break right there.
Well, I mean,
If
look
they
at,
would admit that he invented this and fed this Epstein myth in order to get elected,
yes, well, they
which we
all
all
did.
knew.
Yes, they all, Vance did it, Candace Owens did it, Nick Fuentes did it. But I was just going to say, speaking of Fuentes, who's such a lightning rod and weather vane for MAGA, I
Uh-huh.
mean,
Yeah.
he is completely turncoated now. He's
Right.
fuck MAGA, fuck Trump, he's fat,
Right.
he's stupid. We've all
Right.
been conned.
What a trip.
When the history books are written, this will be seen as the biggest scam that
What
ever
a trip.
happened to. And I just was like, wow, this little squirt is
This little.
just cutting loose,
What about the QAnon shaman?
oh my
Stephen
God.
Colbert says when you lose the Q shaman, you lost Fred, Barney, and the entire order of the water buffalo.
I haven't heard anything about the QAnon shit. What is he still in the
He's been
mix?
posting that Trump is a fraud
Oh
too.
my God, I absolutely, that's something to celebrate. Let's go back to my point, if we can swing over to this again for the listener.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people that I work with as clients, you probably get this as well. Everyone's on board with we're now in pure chaos 24/7. And yet they're trying, they want to know suggestions on how to orient. I mean, not that I'm going to tell somebody how to live, but if we use astrology and you look, well, you're in America, you're under the auspices of this particular horoscope that has Saturn and Libra up at the midheaven. Get real with what Saturn represents in your life, with rose tinted glasses taken off,
Yeah.
looking at the reality checks that you can
AKA
bring to
grow up.
yourself. Yeah, grow up and cherry pick items in your own life that are helping you, I don't know, stay in a deluded state or in some fantastical, magical thinking state. What are the reality checks that uh, Americans can do? The
Right.
Saturn in Libra that is
Square to
getting
the sun.
square the sun, putting more pressure than ever on that particular process. And now here's Saturn again in the mix, opposing the Saturn in Libra, or will soon be. So it's still in Aries, it's still twanging that as far as I'm concerned. You know,
Absolutely. I mean, they're as close now as they will be again until February. They're peaking July 2025. And
right.
the two stations, Saturn Neptune station, 1.5 weeks apart. So this is really the peak period, and this is simultaneously the peak period of crazy when out of that soil the Epstein mess erupted, which creates even more chaos, like you say, because now even the battle lines have been blurred.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
and that you're right. That
um,
exacerbates even more chaos. Just as people felt like they got an edge on
yeah,
what's going on, then that's obliterated
that's right.
with this whole process going on with Epstein.
And now they're unsure. It's like blasphemy has happened. So, the distractions, which are part of his Gemini Sag specialty, are, I mean, he's just trying to browbeat the subject into irrelevance every day. And most of them aren't working. None of them are working, except I'm afraid the bringing up the Obama thing again. That's the red meat. I
I don't
heard
know.
that he has his spin team using AI. Did you hear this? Feeding into some large learning program what topics will provide the maximum amount of distraction for the minimum amount of damage to Trump.
Right.
And that they came out with accuse Obama of being involved in the Russia hoax.
Yeah. But this
So
this is taken right out of Putin's playbook because I forget the name of this guy that Putin used to work with. He's
you
no
were, yeah,
longer
telling me.
in the, well, he would his background was like theater of the absurd. He was
Yes,
literally a theater director.
that's
And then
right.
and Putin hired him to do just what you're talking about, this
Yeah,
AI thing doing for Trump. How can you generate so much confusion and
yeah,
chaos that people are so disoriented? We can
yeah.
just keep doing what we're doing. bring in the oligarchs to grab what they
Yeah.
can.
But as we know on a character level, Trump wishes he could beat Putin, but he's too stupid. But, what he's got instead is this Gemini Sag opposition and all these correlations with the US chart, which became the target of MAGA fantasies and propelled him to power. And the idea of the distractions. I don't even think he knows. I was thinking this about Venus, about his full moon Gemini Sag combo. In
Yeah.
general, I was thinking that I don't think he even knows when he's lying anymore. Because, Gemini is so good at spinning
Yep.
ideas and stringing thoughts together and stuff. So the rambling, but the Sag exaggerates.
Yep.
So there's a fine line between lying and exaggeration. And I just think he's so cognitively disoriented that he doesn't even know anymore. But anyway, it fits right into the battle plan here, the red blue divide.
Hmm.
So I don't know if birthday card gate might be different.
So what is that?
That's
So what is
his
that?
summer camp style love note to his pervert buddy that was
Oh,
just published
right.
by the Wall Street Journal.
Yes.
Sickening with a pube signature.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is what I was saying before, when he called it a hoax, I think he did strike the chord. These things scratch the itch of MAGA. So they like that. They might fall for it. And also the regurgitation of the Obama and the rigged 2016 election. He
Hmm.
might get some of them back
Hmm.
into the fold by pressing those buttons. So, the jury's still out.
What are your thoughts about, and I don't have the chart here, but I was talking to Heather Rowan Robbins about this a couple months ago. She actually brought it to my attention that she was studying the chart, the US chart for the establishment of the US Constitution, and that Pluto is now in Aquarius, of course, on its way to, having its return, Pluto return for the establishing of the US Constitution.
Okay.
And I forget
Uh-huh.
when that's to take place. I think in a year or so.
Okay.
I don't know, but and I don't know. This may be coming out of left field for you. Thoughts on that? Like,
Well, I've looked at Pluto applying to the node, to the um, to the U.S. Sibley chart
mhm.
node. That's the next one at 6 degrees of
6
Aquarius.
degrees Aquarius, yeah.
And I see that as the next step to asking the great question: what happens when a superpower's leader has no real power? What happens when a hyperpower isn't that anymore? When it's not even really part of the global conversation anymore, if we're honest. I mean, we know world leaders are laughing at Trump. He's irrelevant on the world stage. And of course, he can't stand that, but his only rebuttal is to just lie. Like when he said the Iran Israel peace treaty was his doing,
Yeah.
Marco Rubio said, actually, no, we had nothing to do with negotiating that treaty. And so did Netanyahu, but
Hmm.
he claimed credit. I mean, he's a joke. And Modi of India just snubbed him. So this is the new post-Pluto return USA. We
Now
have
say
to,
say say something. I go the South Node in the US Sibley chart in Aquarius, and then this conjunction coming up from Pluto. Like say that South Node, what do you see that typifying or
you
marking?
know, I'm I really am no expert on the nodes. I only sort of pay attention to a sequencing of transits as being
Okay.
phases along some kind of often unknowable trajectory,
Right.
that there's kind of a divine logic to the timing.
Yes.
And I see that as sort of the next milestone after the Pluto return is laid waste to our old illusions. of
Hmm.
what it meant to be a hyperpower. There's got to be a next thing, because unlike the rapture people and the, what was they called, the storm people, I don't believe that there's a singular ending and then everything stops. Actually, the 2012 people, remember that in 2012? A bunch of New Age people thought that there would be the end of the world from some
Hmm.
Mayan calendar myth. But I just get very impatient with it. Does nothing in nature just ends, it turns into something else. And
Yes.
that's what Pluto is. It's not death, it's death slash rebirth. So, like you were saying about the IC.
I think, just intuitively, because I asked you about the South Node in Aquarius, then of course my brain started cogitating on it. But I would think that the South Node Aquarius, possibly the encounter with Pluto, would be the man behind the curtain, i.e., Sam Altman, Elon Musk, all of these
Right.
tech bros
Right. The Aqua Bro. Mm-hmm.
with this tech robot
Mm-hmm.
AI again
Yeah.
Aquarian kind of
Yes.
themes. And if
I
a
do
south
too.
node is like a Achilles heel or whatever in a chart,
Mm-hmm.
that's a kind of interesting like I said, the veil getting rent there and the curtain
Yeah.
pulled back. Because right now, economically, financially, Wall Streety, everything in the US is riding on this hypomanic evaluation of AI. And if you read between the lines, people that are actually working in the trenches with it, they'll tell you
Mm-hmm.
all of this is premature.
Mm-hmm.
All of this is just being like spaghetti thrown out on the wall,
Yeah.
hoping something's going to stick. And then the
Right.
stocks, remember the big tech uh, blowout
Bubble.
when that burst? But it was all that .com burst.
And you know what comes to mind? In we're talking big scale mythos, group entities, past lives type of perspective, is how there's this lore about how the reason Atlantis rather, sank was because they had amped up their highly refined technology to such a
Mhm.
sophisticated degree, and then they had no moral underpinnings to gird it.
Right, right.
Makes you wonder, right?
It does. Like I said in my recent piece on Substack, whatever did happen to the Grand Atlantis? You
Did
know,
you bring that up
I
too?
did in
Wow.
that piece I did on Ghosts in the
Wow.
Machine, where AI is
Yeah.
just regurgitating back our past to us under
Oh,
the
yeah.
guise of this future leaning dream vision. It's very bizarre to me.
Well, I'm heartened by the backlash that's
Hmm.
happening. Techlash. It's like a
Hmm.
second stage techlash.
Hmm. Did I send you that piece because it just had me on the floor? It was talking about because more and more people are returning to like human social contracts, human
Yeah.
that now the apps are trying to sell people. Well, here's places you can meet up with other people.
Yeah.
Just get this app and then you can
Let
meet
me
for
sell you where you can be real,
it's like
more real than
they
tech.
just fucking can't like let it. They can't
Mm-mm.
acknowledge that people have had their fill
Well,
with
they would just
this.
did the greed thing. Yeah. Well, that's hopeful to me. The other hopeful thing is South Park.
Oh my God.
What a trip.
You said you couldn't see the because I sent you
No, I
the creme
there's
de la
been
creme.
plenty of reporting on South Park, and I've looked at it from all these different
Oh, but I
angles.
wanted you to see because at the end of the episode, they do an AI recreation of Trump wandering.
No, I know. I
You
know all
saw that?
about it.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
seen enough excerpts, and the thing I
Yeah.
love the most is I didn't know about the small penis rule. Now, check this out. It's especially relevant when you have a serial litigant like Trump, who flings lawsuits left and right as a distraction mechanism. It's that if an author writes a character based on a real person, have you heard about this? You can
No.
evade a libel suit by giving the character a small penis. The logic being that in order to sue, the plaintiff would have to tacitly admit that the description is accurate. So they're not going to do that. These sly dogs at South Park seem to have known about this
Oh my
rule.
God. That is beautiful.
Yeah,
That
they
is
were really smart.
beautiful.
And the Trumpers can't really complain about the penis jokes and the crudity because their hero is all himself all about political vulgarity. Remember when he was going on about Arnold
His
Palmer, the
his big
golfer?
unit,
His
his yeah, yeah.
So I mean, they. The other thing I loved about that episode is that the redheads can't get off on being a bigot anymore.
Mm,
They made that point that the guy says, I forget, but he says everybody's a bigot. He can't say, he says, you can just say retarded now. Nobody cares.
hmm. Yeah.
Reminds me of that tech guy. Who is it who said I was racist before it was cool?
Don't know, but
This is what the South Park guys nailed in that, right? Very cool insight.
oh my God. But I love this, the litigation around the dick size, that how that would
It's how you get around it.
jeopardize. That is beautiful. That's like made my weekend now. These guys are fucking brilliant. So we lose
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert and we get the
Well,
South
that's the
Park
other
boys.
thing, that it's like talk about karma. Paramount's karma came right back and bit him in the ass. They get rid of Colbert, whose mocking of Trump was relatively mild and polite compared to this. And
Yeah.
then they go around and sign up Parker and what's his name? Stone with this $5 billion contract for five
It's
years, whose humor is designed to completely eviscerate Trump.
yes. Yeah. And you know that
What a trip
they kept that episode locked up. They
to the
waited until the FCC,
until
which Trump let
where
them
the ink was
approve,
signed.
get that sign, and then they dumped that show right out. That was so satisfying to,
These things give me
you
hope.
know.
These are the things that give me hope. That idea that I always am telling my students that the truth will never die, or organs of truth, expressors of truth will never fade out. You can never censor all of us. We'll just slip and slide into another medium. Everybody will go to Substack maybe, and then they try to censor that. They'll go somewhere else.
But
We're
see,
whack-a-mole.
that's the going back to my thing about Saturn and Libra at the midheaven, that truth, beauty, the good. I think basic Libran archetypes are that's like for people to find ways that those three qualities are brought to life in their world instead of doom scrolling and constantly obsessing. And I understand why it's a chaotic period, so of course people are, but come back to this Saturn and Libra promise that's there for the American citizen represented by the chart. So here's an interesting thing I brought up in a piece I wrote on my newsletter on Substack. I wanted to get your take on it. The Pluto in Aquarius, the trine that's happening to Uranus and Pluto, they're in this long-term trine.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if it's a square or a trine, these two planets, they're in
Exactly.
communication, the flow is up. And to me,
Mm-hmm.
this exacerbates both the function of both of those planets. So
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
Plutonian, the Uranian, the heat is on for
Yeah.
what this type of transformative upheaval, uh,
Yes.
all
It's
of
a
that
it's
stuff.
always a trend. It's always a radical sea change when transpersonal planets, when two outer planets talk to each other.
And so we've got Pluto goading Uranus, because I think, as I see it, the further out the planets that are below that have to kind of take that force and integrate it or
Yes,
work it
I think so.
into this Uranus uh, in
Hmm.
Gemini. And that to me also is another version of this the prelude to the U.S. Uranus return. Now,
Yes.
what's your take
Hmm.
on this, the Uranus return coming up for
Right.
the
Well,
U.S.?
I'm excited because I've been waiting for revolution since I was born in
Yes.
this country. But, you know, not to be simplistic, we don't know what form it's going to take. I am heartened by our our brother Zoran having his Uranus Neptune opposed to the USA cancer cluster. You
Mm,
know, that whole cohort who were born in the early 90s have
yes.
Uranus Neptune conjunct.
Yes.
Yeah, so I see that as a harbinger of the whole digital age. And those little babies who were born under it have
Yes.
revolution in their blood. So it's not just him. It's AOC has a few years off too. And you can tell, you don't have to be an astrologer to see that somebody from that cohort is likely contender for what I will call a revolution, even though I don't expect it to be with blood and flag waving.
Right. But
Some kind of disturbing upset. Go ahead.
well, he's quite the wild card given all of the static and swirling disorientation that's up in the US politically, especially when you look at the how the Democratic Party's relating to him, which is basically to act like he's not there,
Idiots.
which
I
is
mean,
an,
they're going to try like they did with Bernie Sanders, but
I don't think
when you're
that's going to
talking
work.
outer planets, right?
Right. Say more about that. Like,
Well, you and I probably share the belief that the certain individuals, I mean, like Hitler for his part in the evil way with Neptune and Pluto conjunct, that they become conduits for these transpersonal forces that are bigger than they are
mhm.
when the moment calls for it for unfathomable reasons. I'm not going to presume to try to explain them, but we can just see astrologically that certain individuals, like Trump himself, rise because the culture vomits them up, or in a more positive note, because it's time. And so, again, I'm not going to presume to translate that into political terms, but we can see that with Pluto on this guy's descendant and Saturn right now, and that opposition that puts his, you know, his whole subgeneration, the Neptune Uranus generation, has a mandate of some kind, right?
Yep. Yep.
From the outer planets to do something to the collective. And it just happens to be opposite the USA's Cancer Sun cluster.
Right.
You can kind of read that the moment will bring these people out for
Hmm.
some kind of radical change.
Hmm. And then here, going back, I can't let go of Saturn and Libra today. But, Mamdani, his sun in Libra up there at the Saturn Libra for the US. And then something I said to you the other day after studying different charts related to Pluto transits and this Pluto having something to do with like king or queen making. When
Right,
somebody goes through the Pluto
right,
transits, they withstand it, they come out the other end. It's like the Nietzsche saying of what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And of
right,
course, we have, Mamdani right now is Pluto sitting there on his
right,
descendant, on his natal Saturn.
right.
And
Mm-hmm. It's
so
exciting. And his personality, as always, matches the role. You know, the personal planets fit into what we're talking about as a transpersonal mandate.
yes.
So he's got just the right kind of charm and style. And, you know, he has what this beautiful phrase somebody described him as, he has the charm of a well loved child. Yeah.
Yes, and like you're saying, the moon sun trine, the
The
um
charm of air,
just
the
the
diplomacy.
yeah, him out on the street interacting with folks, talk, that moon and Aquarius ability, just sit down, talk to anybody, have
You're
fun
right.
with them,
Love
vibe with
Aquarius for
them.
that. They
Yeah,
don't even respect these boundaries and these nonsense artificial socioeconomic distinctions. They don't even get what all the fuss is about on that.
right.
And people are dying for somebody, some politician who could be like that. He
Yes.
doesn't give off the vibe of having greed at all. He has um, none of that narcissism, and they're just sick to death of it in every other politician. So I think that in itself will make him explains how he could win against this rival who had buckets of money thrown at him from all the
Yeah.
billionaire donors.
It seems to be an echo to his nature as his chart typifies it. Like it's an echo to the great thing, say, in the US chart with its moon in Aquarius, Saturn,
Yeah,
Libra, that
yeah,
wide
that's right.
trine,
The potential.
and highlighting that his sun and
Mm-hmm.
moon. It's like a
Yes,
reminder of here's this
yes,
particular promise
exactly.
there. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to be blowing to, inflating him too much. I know he's human, but I can't,
Well,
I
we're
just,
studying the way that politics works from a metaphysical perspective. It's important to look at these victories and collisions and scandals like Birthday Card Gate and Epstein. And they're all like little stories that the group entity cooks up
Mhm,
to express these inchoate, invisible motions that are happening below the surface of the mass mind, right?
right.
So they're all important. I don't think that we should, I agree with you, get attached in a more literal way, like hang our political hopes on any one person. But they all rise to prominence for a reason.
The narrative, yeah, the mythic narrative, and then
Yeah.
who's like, popping up, who's going down, what, part of the
Mm-hmm.
cycle is
Mm-hmm.
being enacted. So, I, whenever I've read like too much MAGA news or anything having to do with the cacophony of the Trump presidency, I do go because I follow Mamdani on TikTok, and I'll
Oh,
just go and like kind of watch his videos that he does of interacting,
oh,
with,
nice.
people in New York, and
Yeah.
it's just I'm just like, wow,
So refreshing.
this can actually be existing now. It just kind of
Mm-hmm.
blows the mind,
That's right. So,
definitely.
the propagandistic brainwashing aspect of today's digital media, which isn't really just political, it's trans-political.
Hmm.
Any one particular ideology could be polluted by that ability that tech has these days in this era to rob us of kind of the independent spirit that would know that it was possible, for example, to look at a TikTok of Mamdani to be refreshed.
Yeah.
It's like we have to have a boost from the will to get out of the doom scrolling mindset and what the algorithms tell us that we should be watching next, to get out of that, which is part, I think, of the whole cosmic point of this crazy era, is to challenge people to do that boost of will,
Hmm.
to defy the current
Yeah.
and do just that, to go inside for the impulse of what's life affirming, and to tell the difference between that and these death cult like phenomena that are everywhere else, like these tech lords with their underground bunkers and their and even in their evangelicals with their nonsense about the rapture. It's all like feeding into a death cult mindset.
It's yes, my point again about this supposedly most cutting edge, future leaning thing, tech is actually necrophilic. They're all obsessed with either surviving an apocalypse or they want to live forever
Or
or
they want to go to
it,
Mars.
they want to get to Mars. It's all anti-Gaia. It's all anti-life
Anti-Earth.
here on Earth, really.
This is where Naomi Klein is the priestess of the moment for me. She spelled that out so eloquently.
Say more about, you mean, as
Well,
far.
I wrote this blog about that you and I talked about. She's all
Mm,
into the difference between the people who really want to burn the earth down. Oh, they say they don't, but all their actions are to turn their back on the earth,
yeah.
like you say, to give up on Gaia
Hmm.
and to do all these other things, whether it's building walls to separate themselves from the masses, the barbarians at the gates that they think will, like immigrants and hordes, will take over once things get really bad, climate change wise.
Yeah.
Or they want to defy the laws of nature, like this idiot who wants to live forever,
Yeah.
or leave the planet altogether and try out Mars because they have the money to do that. All of it is, what does she call it? End times fascism.
Great term. Just sews it right up.
Mm-hmm.
So think about the US, the chart, Uranus there and Gemini. We're now another Uranus return coming up. That sort of, see, you know how I think you and I both work with like Dane Rudhyar's take on the cycles. There's the conjunction, square, trine, opposition. So, and then as the planet's coming back to its return, I think the way Roger described it was that the biggest push and the most emphatic exaggeration of the past looms up
Uh-huh.
before the conjunction to like
Uh-huh.
haunt, to like
Wow.
reassert its last vapors and fumes of.
That's really the big picture truth.
And that this is what MAGA, Make America Great,
Mm-hmm.
jingoism, all the nationalism, the xenophobia, like it's like all of those ghosts before that freedom launching
Yeah.
conjunct return of Uranus. And
Big,
I
big
just
dinosaurs thrashing around who know they're going extinct and creating so much damage when they thrash.
and
Reminds me
there's
of something Chris Hedges
go
said.
ahead.
In the last days of all empires, the idiots take over,
Hmm.
right? And they mirror the collective stupidity of a civilization that has detached itself from reality.
Absolutely. Hitler did
It's
it with all the idiots and dunces he installed, like as he was rising, and then the call back to the homeland. And it's a
right.
recurring theme in the
Yeah.
stagecraft of this of megalomaniacs, and which are basically another word for politicians. So
Right.
I'm excited, like you, about that Uranus return. I'm not saying it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be the cure-all. But
No, but it's shaken up.
yeah, I'm just praying that it doesn't involve our legacy in the US as it's been spoken of a lot during the last year, another kind of war enmeshment that
Well, in
we'll
our
get
next
into.
podcast, we're going to have to talk about the fog of war because there are harbingers of what form that might take. But I want to at least include in the ending of this one the way I started out, which is we've got to face the fact that there is death here. Like you said about the transit of the nadir
Hmm.
and this idea of absorbing the Pluto return. No, we are no longer a hyperpower. Just look around. If you look at the international status of the US, the way the rest of the world is looking at us, admit it, admit that this guy that we have created to be our head of state personification is obese, he's old, he's no love in his life, he's about to die. I mean, these are the actuarial statistics of somebody who fits those criteria. and that nobody's talking about it seems to me, again, to be a reflection of the fact that as a culture, we're in complete denial of death.
Right.
But we should be talking, as few are, about what's next. What happens when he keels over? Which itself, whoever it is, whatever it looks like, is going to be a personification, again, of what the group mind is doing.
Oh my God, let me get through this phase before I start
Yeah,
jumping into
no, I know.
President
That's why I say
Vance.
we'll do it next
But
time.
yeah, just the term fog of wars, I'm like, okay, she's the Piscean ascendant is now ready to, the mothership is landing on this particular theme. So that'll be, like you say, for uh our next satsang.
Well, when you look at it, the Neptune transit is the longest of all the ones we've talked about,
Hmm.
today anyway.
Hmm.
That Neptune in Aries is the big news, and everybody else is against the backdrop of that. So, whatever's happening to the Aries archetype with Neptune melting it down is going to be the main plot for a long time.
Mm.
And we need to absorb that as if we're going to be able to understand all these other cycles on top of it. That's where I'm coming from.
I just hope
I
it's
just give the
not.
fog of war as a
I know but I
metaphor.
love it. I love it because it is Martian, it is Aries and foggy Neptune, and the intimations are already there. Like men, males, the Aryan
Yes.
alignment are
Yep.
supposedly a dying breed. They're disappearing. They're overcompensating in the gym, building up their bodies into Hulk Hogan dimensions. And then women are like,
Little Petey Hegseth with his laser gym cosmetic vanity surgery
my
thing for
God.
men. This is, if that's not Neptune and Aries, I don't know what is.
Wait, just so the listener knows, like, because I was that because didn't I send you that where he put out charts about the color nail polish that people can have in the military, and
This
it's
is what he's doing.
the fault.
After, the Navy loses $60 million jets at sea when they fall overboard from an aircraft carrier, and he's putting out charts of what color nail polish you can use.
And the end of the men can't be wearing false eyelashes.
Oh
And
my God.
that was
Help
part of
us.
it. And there was some other dress code shit. My closing response to the fog of war metaphor was just that as men can often do to overcompensate, as the fog of Neptune is sort of shifting this male archetype of the, at least in the US, ideas of what masculinity is. I just hope it's not like, well, we've got to go beat the shit out of something to get our mojo back, kind of a thing.
Well, the thing is, if it doesn't have the truth of the cycles in it, it won't work.
Hmm.
Bring you back to Astro 101. The gestures towards regressiveness tend not to work because they don't have life in them. That creaky ass tank parade said it all. It didn't work. He
And it
wanted to
did
be,
creaky ass. That's such a great
it
description.
was
It was,
creaking
it,
and everyone was laughing. And I mean, the
and the
rest of the
guys are
world was
like at a
laughing at
beauty
it.
pageant, like waving from the tanks, like that infuriated
Nobody
Trump.
there.
He,
He was
he wa-
falling asleep. He's like a simulacrum of a strong man, which is Neptune Aries.
exactly. Yeah.
He's a pretty heavy personality, play acting the commander in chief. All the symbolism of that failed jackboot
Mm,
parade
mm,
says everything about,
mm.
to our point about, you can't go back. I mean, you could try, but it'll be laughable.
Yeah.
This is about something new.
Yeah. And all these old fuckers, like, just like, when are they going to keel over? I mean,
They are going to keel over. That's the
Steve,
one thing we can be sure of.
if
We
I
don't
don't
have to
die
worry, oh,
first.
if it's going to happen.
But I mean, you just look, I mean, Steve Bannon looks syphilitic. Like he looks like he could go over at any moment. And then,
Yeah,
of
they're,
course, the
yeah.
orange bloat and a lot. Well, Jessica, I gotta thank you for getting together again. This has been
Always a
another
pleasure.
enlightening lightning rod of astro insights. And then we'll be back next time for the fog of war, and we'll do some heavy lifting there. Talk to you later, Jessica.
Talk to you later.
Bye.